Hey everyone, welcome to the Detroit Metro Plug podcast where connections matter. I'm Charles, your podcast host, here to serve you and to bring you podcast interviews of Detroit difference makers in the area of entrepreneurship and community involvement. So I'm excited to bring on the podcast our next guest. Before we go into our next guest, just want to give a shout out to my fellow hustlepreneurs. That's right, my hustlepreneurs. Uh, those are those who does whatever it takes to make their passion and their dream become a reality. And I'm excited because we have a very special guest. Let me read a little bit about our next guest on the podcast. She is the founder of Glow Social Media, which is a digital content and social media marketing firm. She began her social media career at Walt Disney Company in Orlando, Florida, back in 2009 after graduating from Florida A&M with her Master's of Business Administration degree from Florida A&M University. Outside of managing her team at Glow, Courtney was proud to be the 2017 Athena PowerLink Award recipient. She has served as president of the Detroit chapter of Together Digital and of Together Digital, and she serves as a adjunct professor at Macomb Community College. Courtney is currently serving on the National Association of Women Business Owners of Greater Detroit chapter as the board secretary, and she serves as the digital marketing professor at DSDT. She's a Lansing native. Courtney now lives in Metro Detroit area with her husband and three children, where she enjoys going to the gym and selling on Poshmark and taking family vacation. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our next guest, Mrs. Courtney Larvadain. Did I pronounce your last name right?
Larvadain. I
Larvadain.
know.
Okay,
It's a
Courtney
lot of
Larvadain.
letters.
Yes, yes. So welcome to the Detroit
Thank you so much,
Metro Plug
Charles.
podcast. Yes, yes. Now, do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself? I know I kind of read a little bit
You
in the
did.
introduction. Anything you want to add to it or?
I am a teacher at heart, and the
Okay.
thing I know is digital marketing. So I have owned my business for 9 years now, which is really crazy to even think about. I don't know if I would have been able to say where I would have been. You know, people say, well, where do you see yourself 10 years from now? And as I am rolling into my 10th year of business in 2022, I'm really not sure I could have placed any of this, but I'm really thankful and happy for how it's all gone. And currently what we do at Glow is we teach, train, and consult. So we work with entrepreneurs and business owners to really teach digital marketing strategy, provide digital marketing consultations to understand how social media, digital tools like email, newsletters can all work to grow your business and ultimately increase revenue by creating a stream of leads and client regeneration. So I teach, which you read in my bio, I teach at the collegiate level, which I enjoy. But what I really love is teaching and training entrepreneurs because it's one thing to learn something as a student, but it's another thing entirely to learn something as an entrepreneur because you actually need to put it into practice for your business. So that's a lot of fun. And it's what my passion is teaching and sharing all of the knowledge that I've gleaned over the past 15 years as a digital marketing professional.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So I hear the theme of your passion is you're a teacher at heart.
Mhm.
You're a teacher at heart, and you're passionate about helping business owners in the area of email marketing, newsletters, and social media. Is that correct?
Yeah, so all things digital. I like to call what I do digital business coaching. So
Okay.
if there is anything that happens on the internet that has to do with growing and creating a business,
Okay.
I help entrepreneurs figure out what tools are right for them, what resources are right for them, and how to
Mhm.
work smarter instead of harder, because we all have
Okay.
a lot of work to do every day.
Okay. That is awesome. So, how did you get your start in the business you're in now?
Well, I think most people I meet have interesting entrepreneurship origin stories,
Okay.
and mine comes out of, I think necessity, inventions, whatever the saying is, necessity is the mother of invention.
Right.
I was working in Atlanta. I was doing digital marketing for a television network, and I got laid off. And
Okay.
it was my second job out of grad school. So I was, young and fresh, and getting laid off was pretty devastating for me at the time. And I had no idea what I was going to do next.
Okay.
Entrepreneurship was not something on my radar. Entrepreneurship was something that was discussed a lot at FAMU in the business school. The professors talked about entrepreneurship all the time. And I would always sit in class and kind of roll my eyes and say to my friends next to me, entrepreneurship is dumb, because why would I work 80 hours a week for $0 when I could work 40 hours a week and get paid every 2 weeks on time? And so I understood kind of what some of the downsides and struggles are to entrepreneurship early on. And that always kept me kind of at an arm's length from being an entrepreneur.
Okay.
But I know a lot about business. I have an entrepreneurial spirit, and I have a teaching heart. So upon getting laid off, I took some advice from my dad. And for those of you who have great parents in your life, we have those times where our parents give us good advice and maybe we don't take it right away, but we take it eventually. And that's what I did. My dad, called me. I was down in Atlanta, and he said, okay, well, um, you know, on Monday, you get up and get dressed and sit down at your desk in at your house, and get on the computer and start emailing everybody all of your professional contacts, and let them know that you've been laid off and what kind of work that you do. And my immediate response was, that's embarrassing. No. and, after sleeping on it, I knew that my dad he's always right about everything. So I kind of put my tail between my legs and sat at my computer on Monday and started emailing all of my professional contacts, letting them know that I'd been laid off and that I was a, social media marketer.
Okay.
I got a reply from a colleague and mentor who I worked with at Disney. And she said, oh my gosh, I was just talking about you. I know somebody who is starting, their own online magazine. They're looking for someone to handle digital marketing. And I had no idea you were available, but here you are in my email telling me you're available. So
Right.
one thing led to another, and 6 weeks after being laid off, I had my first freelance job. And quickly, one thing kind of led to another, where I just kept kind of mentioning that I was freelancing, not really sure that I was starting a business. I just needed some income while I looked for a job, and kept getting different opportunities.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
also give a lot of credit to my network. There's the book that your network is your net worth. And I find that
Right.
it's great to keep people around you who know things that you don't. Because as I started freelancing, I had really close, amazing friends who had a lot of skills. And I had a friend who said, let me build you a website, because people might want to know a little bit more about you to hire you. And then I had another friend who said, let me show you how to set up an LLC so you can get a bank account so you can take money, legally. And I had all these friends just kind of, give
Okay.
me a hand. And I really
Okay.
appreciated that so much. And so I find that the moral of that whole story is, I hear this a lot on social media these days about, moving in silence, and don't tell people what you're working on, and just kind of pop up having done the big thing that you want to do. But I
Right.
actually
Okay.
find that my success has been the exact opposite. My
Okay.
success has come from telling people what I'm working on, and telling people the struggles and the challenges that I'm having, so
Okay.
they can help me.
Okay.
Because the other adage is that a closed mouth doesn't get fed, right? So if
Right, right.
nobody knows that I am struggling, whether I need clients or whether I need a website built or, whether I need anything, if I don't share that with people, if I try to keep it all in so I can pop up, being a success story, I may not get as far as I would if I let my network know, the people who I, know and trust, know what I'm working on so they can lend a helping hand.
Okay.
And one thing really just led to another. And the next thing I knew, I had an LLC and an official business. And here
Wow.
we are 9 years later. And I just, I will jokingly say I never, here we are 9 years later and I'm still doing it. But I've
Wow.
absolutely loved what I've created and what I'm continuing to grow and build. And the the flexibility of entrepreneurship for me to when I started my business, we were a service provider, so we managed social media channels for our small business clients. Now I'm a teacher because I've always wanted to be a teacher. When I was in high school, I
Okay.
wanted to grow up and be a college professor.
Okay.
And one day a few years ago, I thought, well, why don't I just be a college professor if that's what I've always wanted to be? And
Okay.
it seems so, out of the ordinary and, difficult to just say that you want to do what seems like a shift, but it's really not a shift. I am very educated in digital marketing. And so
Okay.
I am a great teacher also. And so I'm able to put those things together. And it's not necessarily a new career path, it's just what the business has evolved into.
Okay. Okay. So I'm assuming in your, I know you went to college at Florida A&M. So did you like focus on marketing, digital marketing, or is that the program you were in?
Right. So I'm young, but I'm not that young. Digital marketing was not a thing when I went to school,
Okay.
and I was a marketing major.
Okay.
And I majored in marketing in undergrad, and my MBA has a concentration in marketing as well. Um, I was always interested in marketing. I wasn't quite sure what I planned to do with my degree, but what I now realize is I could have never known what I wanted to do with my degree because social media didn't exist in the way that it does now until I was in grad school. So there was no way that I could have gone to college saying, I want to be a digital marketing
Oh, okay.
professional because it didn't
Okay.
exist.
Right.
So I was just kind of going out on faith. And I, I will, don't tell anybody I say this, but I call, I call marketing and I call being a business major general studies for smart people because it's really generic, right? I mean,
Right.
anybody can be a business major. And
Okay.
I I knew that I wanted to have an MBA. Don't ask me why I knew that. I've known that since high school that I wanted to have an MBA. Didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just knew that I wanted one.
Okay.
And I am thankful mostly for going to Florida A&M
Okay.
because business school is great, but the education network that I built at FAMU is something that I couldn't put a price on.
Okay.
And it has absolutely been able to, lead me into where I am today.
Okay. Okay. So if I understand, it sounds like so you're in school and your foundation is in marketing. You had a job opportunity, and then it didn't work out. You got laid off, and you turned that situation to going into your business, which you've been in
Mhm.
for 9 years. So I'm assuming, far as all the different, over the past 10 years, we had different social media platforms. Of course, I'm assuming when you were in school, you have, Facebook was there, and then probably Instagram probably just started. So are you self-taught uh, with digital marketing? or how did you get your expertise?
I got my expertise really by just hitting the ground running. So
Okay.
my first job after grad school was at Disney, and I was working as the social media manager for Disney's Fairy Tale Weddings and Honeymoons, which is their kind of
Wow.
wedding sector.
Yeah.
And I was working with an amazing marketing team who really understood marketing to its core. And at the end of the day, digital marketing is just a form of marketing. So I learned
Right.
from a
Right.
lot of people who really understood how to market, especially in the entertainment industry. And I also was able to work there with a lot of people who had been in kind of digital technology and were really starting to understand digital marketing and social media at the ground level. When I started at Disney, Instagram did not exist. So when I
Okay.
was
Okay.
working at Disney, there was Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And
Twitter. Okay. Was MySpace still there? It's just
MySpace was long gone already. Yeah,
okay.
MySpace was long gone. But
Okay.
I'd always I'd always had an interest in what you would consider very early social media. So,
Okay.
in high school, I was on MySpace, I was on Black Planet. I
Right. Right.
met people who I was going to go to college with online ahead of time, all of those things. And so I realize in retrospect that I am I'm a very social person, and I navigated kind of being a social butterfly also online. So I would use the tools that were at my disposal of, MySpace and things like that to just be social. And when social media kind of became a term, I was like, this makes perfect sense for me because
Okay.
I'm social and I like the internet. So I really just liked the marriage of those two concepts. But yes, a
Huh.
lot of it, to answer your question directly, most of it was learned on the job. I had a lot of
Oh
on the
wow.
job training.
Wow, that is awesome. That is awesome. So you were kind of on the ground floor. You hit the ground running, you learned on the
Absolutely.
job. Okay. And so you have your marketing background from school, you have your experience at Walt Disney, and then 9 years of experience. Now, kind of what we do on our podcast, we like to have people share some tips. And we would like for you to go into five major tips you would share with someone to grow their social media influence. Let's say somebody's just starting a business, they're a little
Mhm.
bit uncomfortable or doesn't know how the platforms work, but they know they got to use social media to get their business, their service, their product out. What would you
Mhm.
tell them? How would they get started? What would be your tips?
Yeah, so the first thing that I would say to anyone who is either just getting started on social media, or maybe you're just starting a business and obviously need to kind of create this new social media presence for your business, is the first thing you always have to understand inherently is you need to speak to your niche. And I know, entrepreneurs, the business community throws this word niche around a lot. But really, what that means at its core is you need to have one very specific type of customer, and that's the only person you are going to be speaking to. So, for instance, my very specific customer is what I and many people call the mompreneur. And that is a woman who has children who live in the home, so children under 18, and the woman owns a business. So that's really the only qualification. You own a business and you have kids who live with you who are under 18.
Okay.
And everything I do, create, say, speak to on social media is talking to that person. And that doesn't mean and this is what I think is really important about understanding your niche. This doesn't mean that I don't ever get a client who is a man or a woman without children. That doesn't mean that I never get a client that doesn't fit into that mompreneur bucket. but it means I know exactly who I'm speaking to on social media at all times, and I don't have to worry about trying to speak to everybody. Because once you're worried about trying to speak to everybody, you're going to be all over the place, and no one is going to resonate with what you're putting on social media. So your niche on social media doesn't necessarily mean that's the only clients you're ever going to get, but it does mean that is the group of clients that you and potential clients that you want to speak to on social media. So number one tip, speak to and identify your niche.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Number two. My number two tip. This speaks a lot to creating content. And as you get into social media and into the marketing world, you're going to start to hear a term called content. This is a term that we marketers throw around a lot, but essentially content is just the stuff you create that goes online. So, excuse me, if I write a blog post, that's a piece of content. If I take a social media, that's a piece of content. So content is just the stuff. So it's just a catch-all term. Content creation is one of the most elusive parts of social media. And it's the reason why a lot of people don't do it, or a lot of people start and then give up. Because once you start on the train of being active on social media, you can't stop, right? Once you start posting on Instagram, you can't stop. You have to do it every single day. So the tip I want to share is not my tip, so I'm going to give credit where credit's due. It is from Gary Vaynerchuk, who is
Okay.
a really great, digital marketer, multi-entrepreneur, and really teacher of kind of the digital marketing trade. And one of the things that he says, which is a tip I love to share, is called document, don't create. And this has to do with creating content. So the point behind this is, instead of saying, oh, I need to do a photo shoot every, quarter, I need to write all these blog posts, I need to come up with all this video content, I need to, write out my script and everything. Document your days, and you'll be surprised how much content that creates. So are you being interviewed on a podcast? That's a piece of content that you can then share on your social media. Are you speaking at a function? Ask someone to
Right.
videotape it. Ask somebody to take some photos of you, at the speaking engagement.
Right.
Are you working with a client? After you've had that call, jot down a handful of things that you guys talked about, because I'm sure there was some interesting gems and takeaways that came away from it. So document your everyday life and the things that you actually do in your work. And then you don't have to sit down and worry about, how am I going to create this next piece of content? Because you're constantly creating and gathering content just from your everyday life.
Wow, that's a great tip. That's a great tip. And I'm a fan of Gary Vee too. I follow him on Instagram.
Yes.
Yeah.
I met him early on in his digital media career when I was working at Disney. Actually, they had him
Wow.
out to speak, and that was the first time I'd ever heard of him. But I mean, that was 15 years ago. And I think he had maybe just started his business. And so he was coming off of a lot of success from YouTube and his Wine Library TV.
Right.
And I was just completely enthralled. So yes, I've been a huge fan of him for over a
Right.
decade.
Right.
And
That's good.
I pretty much will regurgitate, any of the tips that he gives, because they're all very good. So that was
Great. Great.
one. I give credit to him for that.
All right.
My tip number 3 has to do with really drilling down into content. So we talked about creating content and the importance of content, which is, once you start being active on social media, you need to be active all the time. So then when you're thinking about types of content, we want to think about focusing on the most important type of content, which is video. So digital marketers will say content is king, and that makes video queen, because video is the most engaged type of content on the internet. So people will watch video and interact with video more often than a photo, more often than a blog post, more often than, a tweet, whatever. So when you're thinking about your social media presence, it's really important that you become comfortable on video, whether that's, nerves around appearing on video, nerves about, your speaking skills. Practice makes permanent. So get out, practice, don't feel nervous, don't worry about it. One thing I tell my clients all the time, which is also a little tongue in cheek, is that don't worry about your early stuff that you put out on social media, because no one's going to see it. Because in the long run, the 100 followers that you have when you first begin are not going to remember a crappy video that you did where maybe you were a little nervous. We're not Kim Kardashian. You don't get on Instagram and immediately have 10 million followers. So you don't have to worry about being perfect, because we are all getting to that level. So it's about taking advantage of the fact that you're just starting out and you do have a smaller audience to really just get in there and practice. Get out there every day, go live, post to Instagram and Facebook stories, create those reels, create how to get comfortable, being in front of the camera. I hear that from people all the time, and it is something that takes a lot of work. I have been appearing on camera since high school. So this is, I've been doing this for I've been doing this for a number of years that I'm not going to mention. I've been doing this for a long time. And there are still instances where I am wanting to do better, wanting to perfect my verbal skills, wanting to perfect the way I appear on camera. All of it is practice. And so no one's going to be perfect that first day, but it doesn't matter, because no one's going to see it in the grand scheme of things. So get out there and practice and focus on video.
Okay. That's good.
My fourth tip is, I call it hashtag power.
Power.
And that really just means there's a lot of power in hashtags. So for those of you who don't know, hashtags are the little pound symbol that apparently no one under the age of 30 knows what the word pound means. I didn't know that, but it's the pound symbol that is now called a hashtag.
Right.
These are most widely used on Twitter and on Instagram. You can use a hashtag pretty much everywhere, but I like to say Twitter and Instagram because Twitter actually invented the hashtag and Instagram perfected the use of it. You can, of course, use hashtags on Facebook. You can use hashtags on LinkedIn. But what I tell people is, do not send a tweet and do not post a thing on Instagram without a hashtag.
Okay.
You always need a hashtag. And the reason for that is hashtags are like a labeling system. It's like a library catalog. So you want to put search terms in your posts. And the way you do that is through hashtags. So I post, say I post some video, motivational video. I'm going to use hashtags entrepreneurship, mompreneur, small business owner. I basically am trying to think of and create a list that I can keep handy of different tools and different, subject taglines that I can add on to each of my posts. So hashtags are really what you want to use specifically on Instagram and Twitter to catalog all of your posts. Mm-hmm. So what I will often recommend to clients is create a running list of hashtags, and you might even want to create hashtags for different topics. So when I do Instagram posts on entrepreneurship, I will have a list of hashtags saved in my phone that I can easily copy and paste over to that text and upload with that image.
Okay.
Say I have a post and it's a little more general about, maybe my life as a working mom. I'll have a group of hashtags that I will use to put in that post. And on Instagram, people will often search hashtags. You can follow hashtags, they will save hashtags. And all of that helps your posts show up in different searches based on the different hashtags that you use. So I highly recommend it. And on Instagram and on Twitter, like I said before, do not post anything on either of those two platforms without using a hashtag.
Great, great, great.
And my final tip. My final tip is the work smarter, not harder, because I am all about finding hacks, working smarter instead of harder. And my fifth tip is about batching. And what batching basically means is it is kind of a term that has come up in digital marketing, but really for entrepreneurship in general. And the point of it is do a bunch of like tasks together. So if you think about an assembly line or a production line, it's a lot faster for you to do 50 of step one and then 50 of step two and then 50 of step three instead of step one, step two, step three. So if you think about, folding a letter, stuffing the envelope, licking the envelope and closing it. You could do those 3 steps 50 times, or you could fold all the letters, stuff all the envelopes, lick all the envelopes and shut them. And that's really what batching is. And we like to use batching in digital marketing when we're creating our content. So when you're thinking about how do I batch content creation for social media, you want to think about, say I am taking photos for something and I say, oh, I'm dressed up because I had to go to this, webinar, I had to go to this meeting. While I'm at it, let me also take a bunch of photos in some different poses that I can use for social media later. Let me also take a couple of short videos talking about different subjects that I can then use later on social media. So thinking about how you can create lots of content at one time. Then you can also think about batching when it comes to content creation. And this is where I think about creating a content calendar. So instead of every single day picking this up and saying, I need to post on Instagram, I need to post on Facebook, sitting down at the end of the month and saying, all right, what am I going to post every single day of December? November. At the end of November, I sat down with my blank calendar on my computer and I created social media posts for every single day of the month of December. I selected the photo, I wrote the text, I wrote the hashtags, and all of that maybe took me a couple hours. And then I used a scheduling tool to schedule all of those posts. And that's really when you start getting into, the meat of digital marketing, because I hear people say all the time, oh my gosh, Courtney, you are always on Instagram, you post all the time. Really, I don't. I'm just really good at batching. And I'm also really good at documenting instead of creating. I'm really good at whipping out my phone and quickly taking a video of what's already happening in the room instead of sitting down at 9:00 at night and saying, well, what am I going to post on Instagram today, and having to come up with it. So ultimately, batching all of these activities is going to save you a lot of time, and it's also going to make sure that you appear much more active on social media and it leaves you a lot of room for a lot of the extra stuff because there's a lot to handle on social media. You've got to post to your Instagram feed, you've got to make reels, you've got to post to stories, you've got to go
Right.
live. That's a lot.
Yes.
And if you can take some of those things off your plate by, say, having all of your social media posts scheduled, now all I have to worry about is going live and posting to my stories. So
Right.
as
Right.
you can start to batch some of your content creation, it's going to give you a lot more room to actually be more active.
Okay. Okay. What is the secret sauce in scheduling and is it use a certain app or do you schedule it through the platforms or
Yeah, so my secret tool is I schedule through the platforms.
through the platforms?
Facebook
Okay.
specifically has they actually have two scheduling platforms. I have no idea why. They have one called Facebook's Creator Studio, and they have another
Oh.
called Facebook Business Suite.
Oh
Both are
yeah. Yeah.
free. You can
Right.
use either one, they both do the same thing. And you can schedule to Instagram and you can schedule to Facebook through either of those tools. And I use
Great. Great.
those exclusively.
Okay.
Um, Twitter, any third party tool works fine to schedule with Twitter and LinkedIn as well. Any third
Okay.
party tool works just fine to schedule through LinkedIn.
Okay, that's awesome. So, just kind of a recap on your tips. The tip one was to speak to your niche. You have a specific customer in mind, and you create your content and your marketing and everything geared to that particular niche.
Right.
And you gave an example of yourself that you target women with children, children under 18, right?
Yep.
Yes. And we even heard one of your child, they got involved in our interview today, which is
Yes,
great,
she
which
did.
shows
She
that
did.
you are a mompreneur.
Yes, it is. And I mean, that is because I am a coach and a consultant, I am
Right,
able to have a customer that is also reflected in me. And
right, right.
it just so happens to work out that way. And I'm really fortunate to have
That is
that
amazing.
because I'm living it.
Right, you're living it out. You're living it out. I like that. And you said point number two, creating content is important. And you shared a tip from Gary V about document, don't create, and just kind of document
Mhm.
what you're doing. And that helps to create content where you don't have pressure to try to create original things and, kind of thing like you got to produce a movie or something like that.
Exactly.
And your third one was the use of video. That if content is king, video is queen, and the importance of using video because people respond to video more than pictures.
Mhm.
And you said fourth was the power of the hashtag. That, and
Yes.
particularly on Twitter and Instagram, if you're doing a post, that you include hashtags. And now I wanted to ask you about that. Is there kind of a certain amount of hashtags someone should have, or does it matter? Do they have to have 3, 4, 50? I don't know. What?
That's a really good question. Instagram does have a hashtag limit, and it is
Okay.
30. You can
Okay.
put up to 30 hashtags in your post, and there has been a lot of speculation as to what is the sweet spot number of
Right. Right.
hashtags, to get the most out of the algorithm. And nobody really has gotten any good answer from Instagram.
Okay.
I like to hover around 10 to 15. And
Okay.
I know there are people who will put 30 hashtags in every single post. But what we have learned is you are not negatively affected by putting all 30 hashtags. So if
Okay.
anything, it's the more the merrier.
Okay. Okay. And you said with hashtags, it should relate to your niche or your business, it shouldn't be random.
No, they shouldn't be random. They should relate to a few things. They should relate to your business, your line of work. They should relate to your niche, and then they should also relate to the actual content that you are posting. So
Okay. All right.
whatever is in the picture or the video, you'll want to refer to those tags. You'll also want to refer to your, customer base, and you want to refer to the line of business that you're in.
Awesome. Awesome. And you shared as your fifth tip was the power of batching, working smarter, not harder, and
Mhm.
doing batching your content together and then scheduling it out through different platforms so you don't feel overwhelmed.
Right.
Okay, that's awesome. Those tips. Um, Before we conclude, I wanted to kind of go into give you an opportunity. I was on your website, um, which is Glow Social Media, and just kind of getting information about yourself and the services you provide. Do you mind going into some of the services you provide with your company?
Absolutely. We have two main coaching services that we provide, and one is called Grow with Glow, and that is a group coaching digital accelerator. And we're actually launching our next consortium starting in January. And this is really what you would call your most traditional classroom setting. So we meet virtually twice a month, and you are going through the process of learning how to create your digital marketing strategy. That is everything from social media to do you need an email newsletter to, what is your digital funnel look like? What is your digital lead generation process? We go through the whole process, and at the end of this accelerator, you really have built an online presence with social media, email, and a true funnel that's going to build your client base over time and keep your revenue consistent and on the upward trend. And the other offering is private one-on-one coaching.
Okay.
And this is for entrepreneurs who really want to dig into building and growing their business through the use of digital tools and want to work with us privately one-on-one. So the what we're creating is very specific to their business and their industry. So I work with clients who really are what I would consider the face of their business. So doesn't necessarily mean you're a solopreneur, but say you are a realtor. Maybe it's just you and you're under an umbrella, or maybe you have your own real estate team under you, but you kind of are the face of that. I also work with event planners and interior designers, people who have grown businesses, but they are very much the face of their business. So if that applies to you, whether you are a coach or consultant or a service provider, whether you are in insurance, whether you create a product that you sell online, this is a really great way, either through the group Grow with Glow Digital Accelerator or the one-on-one private coaching, to understand all of the digital tools that are available to you to grow your business and put the right ones in place and create the steps that are really needed to grow a business and grow revenue by using these digital tools.
Okay, so you have the Grow with Glow
Mhm.
accelerator and the one-on-one
Yes.
coaching. Okay.
Yes.
Now, what's the best way people can reach you? You mind sharing your website, your social media handles?
Yes. Yes. So you can find us at glowsocialmedia.com. And we are online at Glow Social Media. And you can also find me personally online at Mackie Lane, which is Makilane, which we can probably, put in the description and all of that good stuff. I have a
Yes.
personal lifestyle website, which is mackielane.com. And I am literally everywhere on social media at Mackie Lane.
Okay, awesome. So Mackie Lane, and then your Grow with Glow website. Okay, and I'll put
Yes.
that in the show notes so people can have access to that.
Perfect.
Okay. Do you have any? I know you mentioned a little bit about something in January, but do you have any other announcements or anything going on? I mean, some people in the coaching profession during the holidays they give some type of discount or something for coaching, or I'm not sure. You have anything
Yes.
coming up?
Well, I am doing something on YouTube called Vlogmas, which is not at all related to,
You have a YouTube channel?
oh, yes, I
Oh,
have
okay.
all the things.
Oh, okay.
And what Vlogmas is it's something that YouTubers and influencers have kind of created, which essentially is just you make a video every single day in the month of December, and that's all that it is. And
Oh, okay.
I participated in Vlogmas last year. I got through 18 of the 31 days, and this year I'm gonna shoot to get through all 31. So
Okay.
you can find me on YouTube by searching Courtney Larvadain and
Larvadain. Okay.
come check out my Vlogmas. I'm doing some giveaways there, so hey, you never know what you're
Okay.
gonna stumble upon if you come see me on YouTube.
That is awesome. That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you for sharing those five major tips for our viewers. That's going to be a great help with their business. And I encourage you, those who are viewing, to reach out uh, to grow with Glow, right? Did I say it right? Grow with Glow. Reach out for her services to help you to increase your influence on social media. So I just want to thank you again for being a guest. Best wishes to you and your family.
Thank you.
And it's exciting to see how you are balancing being a mom, an entrepreneur, and you're involved in the community as well.
Yes. Holding on for dear life.
All right. All right. Well, thanks again.
Thank you so much, Charles.